Hi everyone, I'm Sai Prabhakar. I'm a community advisor at nsk.ai, and currently I'm working at Anterior. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. So today I'm going to talk about model merging, right? We'll talk about what model merging is, what are the popular techniques, why is it so useful, and why is it so popular now, right? And yeah. Ask your questions in the chat, or I think if you want to disable chat and uh, just allow Q&A, that
Yeah,
will be okay as well.
yeah. Okay, so I'll
Awesome.
do that.
Cool. I'll start by mentioning a little bit about me. I was born in India and I did my undergrad in IIT Madras in India, and my undergrad was in mechanical engineering, but most of the time I was focusing on robotics. This here you like is one of the robots. I hope my cursor is visible. But this here is one of the robots that I worked on. It's supposed to be like a robot on moon surface. But soon after that, I went for masters in CMU. The masters was focused on robotics, but and I mostly worked on like robot soccer teams, like these robots, which are insanely fast, and they play soccer against an opponent team who also have like five robots. And I also worked on this particular robot. We call it a Scobot. It can freely roam around our university buildings, and it can ask people to press an elevator, and it can travel an elevator and do a lot of these interesting tasks for us. Uh, After that, shifted after graduating from CMU, I shifted my domain from like robotics, which involved like robotics plus machine learning, to purely machine learning. And I worked for a brief period of time at Disney Research. There, I was mostly working on movie script recognition and things like that. Uh, So after Disney Research, I joined Abridge AI. It's a startup in healthcare and Gen AI in USA. And I was the first person to join Abridge AI. And I was with them with Abridge for 6 years. And this was in 2018. And we worked on Gen AI even before the term Gen AI or transformers even existed. And we kind of grew with the field. Uh, and the core product was to we built an app that can record a conversation between doctor and patient, right? And use it to automatically document their conversation in an electronic software, right? That's what I did at Abridge. And after that, I worked at Tempest for a brief period of time. Tempest where I work mostly on clinical trials matching. Let's say you have patient data and then you have a pharma company want to do trials on a particular cancer drug they are developing. Try to match them up. It's a really difficult challenge. Uh, and then I moved to Anterior more recently, 4 or 5 months back, where I'm working on automating prior authorization, which is let's say if you want but if your doctor wants to give you a particular treatment, right? They request insurance company to say that, hey, this patient has this pain, we did this treatment, but it did not work, so we want to do this treatment. And then insurance company looks at medical guidelines and then checks and say, okay, whatever the doctor is doing is correct. This is the recommended treatment by the government or like the medical community, and that's why this treatment should be approved, right? Or they might end up saying, no, according to recent research, this particular treatment, before doing this particular treatment, you should have tried this particular treatment because it is more effective than this one. So they do that is called prior authorization. So, in my day-to-day work, I'm working on developing agents, long document understanding. When I say long document, it's like over 600 pages long documents, almost a novel at this point, right? and task agnostic evaluations, right? So that is my current work at Anterior. So let's jump into the talk. Uh, First, I'll tell you like before going into like the in-depths of like model merging, let's get some intuition on what is model merging, why is it so useful, right? Fine-tuning LLMs for every single task is expensive, right? And let's say your users care about coding and French or Igbo, right? Language, right? You can have either like three different models, and based on your user's question, you can route your user's request to each of those models during the testing time. During the production time, or you can just have one model that is specialized on all of them. Now, the problem with having one model is that now if you have a new update, you have to retrain your entire model. It's so hard to do, and even during uh, inference, right? Like even during production, you will have to maintain all of those models all the time. You have to have them available all the time, right? So it's really hard. So what instead model merging allows you to do is you take a base model and then train it only on math. Then take the same base model, train it on science and English, right? And you just add these models, and now you have a new model which is better on all of them, right? This is called model merging. You are basically adding or merging your models together you can use some data points, training data points that more like hyperparameter tuning, but it often works without any data points. Let's see how it happens, right? Yeah, this is what I mentioned to you. Uh, so you are able to reuse your existing models, and you are able to blend skills. And sometimes you also get new capabilities, right? For especially in image generation space, we'll look at that more during the talk. And it's already used in practice. Hugging Face has a leaderboard, right? I think most of us here know Hugging Face. They have a leaderboard ranking different LLMs on different tasks, right? And in the top 20 models, 20% of them are like obtained by merging multiple one or two models, more than two models, right? So people are already using this as well as in stable diffusion. Stable diffusion is a company, or it's like a version of models, right? And they mainly target image generation, right? And stable diffusion, most of the people in the using stable diffusion's open source models does so by merging multiple different styles, and then creating completely new image generation styles. We'll look at some examples in the talk as well. So at the basic, I'll tell you like how does model merging approximately work, like the background, right? So we assume that each model has a different set of skills, right? And these skills are a part of the weights in the model, right? So LLMs are a bunch of numbers, and we call them weights, right? So let's say model A has three weights, and model B has also three weights. And then when you say we want to merge them, we are just the simplest way to merge them is to do an average of both the models. Now you have a model C that is good at what model A does as well as what model B does as well, right? And oftentimes what we find out is that it performs even better sometimes than model A and B together, because now you are aggregating whatever you learned, right? So your model becomes much more generalizable. It performs much better now, right? These are some like let's look applications that I want you guys to just keep it in mind, that where can we apply model merging, right? In text space, in LLMs, right? Already model merging, like I mentioned, is used in top 20% in the top 50 models, and 34% if you take top 100, right? And in vision side as well, there are people like blending styles. Like, can you blend animation generation, right, for LLMs with photorealism, like photorealistic animation? There are a lot of models that people have easily merged and released. And the good thing about this is, to merge models, you don't need any GPUs. You just need a CPU, right? You can do it in Google Colab in a without any paying any money as well, right? And even in the audio and multimodal space, Whisper, which is a really powerful speech recognition model, merges model. And because of merging, there are people have reported that it's increased robustness as well as multilinguality, right? Uh, as well as you can merge better models to get like better image captioning and multimodal application. Can you do image captioning? So it's one model images and goes to text. You can also apply model merging on multimodal models. Right. Now I want to show you guys a small demo on model merging. Right. So I'm using this library. Hope you can read the screen, but I'm using this library called uh, Mergentic, right? And I have cloned it here, and I have two models here. I have a Gemma 2 billion model, right? It's a very small model, right? So it has limited capability, but we'll use that for a demo here. And this is an Italian model. It's trained on Italian language, right? And then we have a Gemma 2 billion version again for math model, right? Like it's trained on math problems, right? And then what I'm doing here is I'm just loading these models here, right, from Hugging Face, and then um, I'm setting up a path for storing the merged models, and then I'm creating a configuration for merging the models. We don't need to look at the configuration. Most of the weights you see here are 0.5, which means it's just averaging those two models, right? Uh, a lot of these configs are available in the web for you to download and use it. And then I'm running the sub command, CLI command, to merge the two models, right? And then I'm storing the model, right? And for testing purposes, I'm loading from cache. I have already generated the model, but uh, yeah, for now I'll try to reload the model again, right? Oh my bad. Okay, it's anyway generating the model by default, even if it exists in my local machine. So let's try to run this uh, run this script. So what let's see what am I testing here. So I load the merged models, right? And then I'm testing on these questions. I'm asking what is 5 plus 3 in English. So this is something a math model should be able to answer. And I'm asking the same question in Italian language. So this is something a model can only answer if it knows math plus Italian. But here, maybe this question, even we can answer it. Maybe it's like approximately, even without knowing Italian, it's like 5 plus 3 question mark, probably 8, right? So I have some text questions here as well. If I have 10 apples, I eat two, how many do I have left? Same question in Italian. And then I have a percentage question, have some speed question here, and then I have a general like English knowledge question. Let's run it. And so it's loading the individual models here, and then it's loading the config, and then it's running the model merge kit, right? And then it's running this command, it's merging in the background. That's it, it has done merging. So it's really fast. My computer has a lot of RAM, but it's only 2 billion model. But you can there are a lot of techniques to do this on a low powered RAM as well, right? So let's look at the answers. So what is 5 plus 3? English question, it answers correctly. And then Italian question also it answered correctly, right? Because we merged those two capabilities. And same question, like the Italian question, 10 apples I eat two, it says 8. And the percentage question as well, it responds correctly. This is correct answer. You can do the math. Uh, and as well as the train question. So English model gave us the correct answer, 60 kilometers per hour if you travel 120 kilometers in 2 hours. And the Italian model answered the questions correctly. It even put the metrics in Italian, right? Uh, as well as the general English knowledge question answer, as well, it answered it correctly. Cool. So it's a simple demo here to show that you can do this locally. I have done it locally, but it's like really easy. There are existing Google Colab notebooks that you guys can download and play with and use it, right? And get some water. Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, put them on the QA or like chat box. Cool. Let's go back to the talk. So let's look at some methods to do model merging. I have some math here, but I'll explain the intuitions as well, right? So first is simple technique, model soup, right? You just like you have one model, like you have two models or four model. You just do a average of them, right? Usually you do an average, or so, let's say sometimes you want more of model to do math than Italian, right? You can say instead of doing zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5, you can say 0.8, 0.2, right? You can do like a weighted averaging. So that's a very simple technique, right? And then there are advanced techniques, right? This is called spherical interpolation. So when you have two vectors, let's say V1 and V2, if you do a simple averaging, you will end up at this point, right? And if you do like weighted averaging, you might end up in one of these 2 points. But in spherical averaging, what you do is you assume these two are part of a circle, right? And then you average them based on the angle between them, right? So instead of dividing it by the distance, you divide it by the angle. People find that this leads to some smoother interpolation, and it also preserves some, like it also doesn't give you that much noisy response, right? And again, like most of these techniques, we used this technique for merging in the demo, but a lot of these techniques, you don't need to know the math as per se to work to use these models. You just need to know, okay, this particular method based on whatever people have written in the blogs, this is its uh, pros and this is its cons. So that's why you should use this. That's the mental uh, intuition you should be developing. And then this is a particularly useful technique called task arithmetic. So what you do is you take, let's say, a base model here, W base, right? And then you train it on a task. Let's say X is the task. You train it on the task, and then you find what is the difference between them, right? What are the difference in the weights between these two models? And we call them task vector of X, right? So this is the difference. And then what we do is instead of using WX, we scale it a bit, right? We downscale it or upscale it and then add it to the base, right? And then we can do this merging for different tasks as well. We'll train them independently, and then depending on our need, we can pick and choose. Let's say I want 50 percentage more or 70 percentage more science answering capability. You can do this kind of arithmetic, right? There's a visual intuition for that. This is the task vector, like before training, after training, and this is the direction of the task vector, right? And then let's say you have two tasks now, task A and task B. This is the average of these two tasks. When you add these two tasks to your base model, you end up here, right? Uh, and this leads to like reusable components for you. during inference, suddenly you can change your weights quickly, right? It's not stuck in one point. It's very dynamic. And then there are like much more advanced techniques. I'll just give you basic intuition of how people think about it. So this particular technique is called ties, where we don't add all the weights. We throw away small updates, right? When there's like a 0.001 update, like you don't do that kind of updates to your model. So you remove the noise. And then let's say you are adding task A and task B and task C, and some of the weights are conflicting, meaning let's say task A is like +1 and task B is -1. If you add them up, you get 0, right? It's like completely in opposite direction, right? So at that time, you want to do some kind of majority voting. Let's say you have 3 tasks, and if 2 of the tasks are +1 and one of them is -1, you throw away -1, you just do +1, right? Things like that. It's very ad hoc. Like people do a lot of these experiments and figure out, okay, this works better, right? Uh, so the pros is that it reduce destructive inference, like meaning +1 -1 gets 0, right? It's destructive. You prevent those things, and but the con is like it's slightly more computationally expensive, but it still works really fast in practice. And then let's say you have like whatever techniques we have discussed before, or without using any data points, right? But what if we have some data point? Then what you can do is during this task arithmetic I showed you, you can say there's 2 parameters, alpha and beta, right? And then which is basically say math, how much percentage do you need to give to math, how many percentage do you need to give to science, and then you change these parameters to increase your accuracy on the few data points you have. You can have 10 data points or 100 data points, whatever it is, right? You can do this manually or you can do this programmatically as well. So you're maximizing this equation, this accuracy equation, uh, and whatever parameter alpha and beta maximizes this accuracy on the validation data set, that's what you will choose to use in production, right? Uh, Yeah, so simple grid search also works, as well as if you have like a very small amount of training data, this works really well as well. And then there's an interesting technique called Franken mixture of expert. The Let's unpack this. Franken means Frankenstein monster. It's a popular novel in the West, which means it's like a bunch of assembled, like Frankenstein monster is something that's created by merging like bunch of very different things, right? uh, so let's say you take like random 100 models and then you try to put them together, right? So that's called Frankenstein monster, right? uh, People do Franken monsters for in we call it Franken models. Let's say you have like weird, let's say you have a particular model that is trained on, let's say, Naruto style of animation. Another one is trained on like Dragon Ball Z kind of animation. Another is trained on, let's say, regular movies, right? Like actual, like real life movies. And then you try to put them together in some weird way and you end up getting something very unique style, right? So it's like bunch of people assembling things together. Here in particular, we call it as Franken MOE, mixture of experts. So mixture of experts, to give you a background, is this kind of architecture that some of the LLMs use, where in one of the layer, you have the input, and the input has this gating network. That gating network looks at the input and decides which of the 3 experts you should give it to, right? Let's say it chooses expert B, and then whatever is the output from that expert goes to the next layer. So it kind of ignores A and B because it knows that within this model, within my model, the weights in A is not really useful for this particular input. And A and C, and you choose just B, right? I see a hand raised, Rose. You can ask the question right now, or uh, maybe I can pause here. Maybe I'll
No,
pause.
I think it's better she
Yeah.
puts in the Q&A. Don't you think?
Okay, yeah. Rose, yeah, maybe post it in the Q&A.
Yeah.
I'll also pause after a bit to answer some questions as well.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So this is mixture of expert architecture, right? And what you do now is you take an expert from one of the model and you take another expert from another model and you try to put them together. Like you take model expert A and model expert B and let your model choose whichever expert you want. So you're just like borrowing some components from these two LLMs and then assembling your own LLM, sort of like how you're building your own Lego set, right? You're building your own like a building, right? And then you have let's say small few number of data points to for your router to choose which expert to route your input to. So it's really efficient, right? You don't need huge number of amount of training data. You are almost assembling them. And often we find that this is much better than actually training your own model in a multitask setting. Instead of that, you can just train, like instead of training your LLM on 5 different tasks, sometimes it is better to train your LLMs on each of these tasks separately and then assemble them together using Franken mixture of model style. Right. It's a very new style. It's a very cool technique. So I wanted to bring it up. And this is what I mentioned to you, right? So this is a mixture of model, right? And then you take expert A from model A and then expert B from model B, and you decide that these experts are really important for this. Let's say this expert from model B is really important for coding, and this expert from model A is really important for math tasks, right? And then you assemble them together, right? Cool. Give me a second. Okay, I have two more slides. Then I'll show you another uh, like a set of examples, right? So what are the particular wins? Like I'm going to briefly recap. So there's no need to train these models, and then model can often outperform uh, single task models, right? Like and also sometimes even rival multitask trained models as well. And then it is robust to even unseen tasks. That's what we are starting to realize. And then you can blend different creativities. And then we discussed about how people are already using it. And this particular model, Open Journey, is a really popular text to image generation model. And this was actually created by Model Merging. And let's look at each domains, right? In vision, like I mentioned, you can merge animation with photorealism. These are some example of models you can actually use to blend. And Open Journey is one of the model of Dreamlike Photorealism, another model. So what are the rules around this? Can you merge any models? No. The thing is, they should come from the same base model. So they should come from the same base model. They can't come from different base model. If you put different base models together, it doesn't make sense. It will fail, right? Similarly for ASR, right? If you want to do so, let's say dubbing, right? Like you want to recreate, let's say if Annie's voice, you can train a really good model on general population model, then fine tune it on just on Ifani's model, and then maybe add it to the original model, right? Again, back. So it's much more generalizable. You are not just overfitting to Ifani, right? And then there are also similar techniques, and blip is another model operating in the multi-modal space that people have merged to get better captioning. And uh, and uh, yeah, LoRa is another a technique used to train the model on when you have like a very really small number of parameters or you don't have that much compute resources. So you can even merge just the LoRa components as well, right? So it's a much faster technique, and there's a lot of success based on this one. And here again, when you're using LLMs, the two models should have the same base model as well as everything else should be the same. The tokenizer should be the same. They should use similar hyperparameters and things like that. So just keep those things in mind. And then, okay, I have to change this. So I'm going to show you some some slides on merging, right? So let's look at this one, right? This is a blog that I found on it's not a blog, maybe it's a company here, and they show that in their platform they have all these kind of different models, and a lot of these models are from model merging, right? Like you can get like and people in this community discuss that, hey, I merged these two particular models and several, and this guy says he merged, like this person says he merged several other models, and you end up getting interesting image generations, right? And let's look at this one. And here you can especially see that this is one particular F222 is one particular model's generation, right? This is like photorealistic, right? Now you have another model that generates more like animation style, right? And then you merge these two together with equal weight. So this person did not do any optimization, and then you do a regeneration. Now this looks very different from these two things, but it's like very unique. People look at these people try to get like unique styles from this right now. You can also try if you have time. And this is another one I found that where they say they took the same model, right, and then trained it for some more checkpoints and then merged it along with this one. But during the the fine-tuning process, they focused on enhancing lights and shadows, right? And then they try to merge them, right? Uh, and you end up getting like these interesting styles that did not exist in your original training data or even in your model's original capabilities, right? And then there are also companies like software, they develop softwares that allow you to see what you're generating as well as merge different models and then see how it looks like. Here you can see that this particular company, you can go over like each layer, right? And then you do an in painting on a model that is operating on like an image, either this particular style or this particular style. Uh, so you can play with these things right on this UI. You don't really need to know the math behind it, but you need to understand the intuitions behind it to make these things work. Cool. Yeah, I just have like three more styles. I think most of them I have already mentioned, so let's get it over with, then I can take questions. Cool. We have discussed this thing, right? Like you can do like instruction following on math code, and you can merge those things together, right? And you can also do like safety alignment or other kind of alignment task with your RLHF onto a strong base model. And in the vision space, we also discussed Franken mergers, which is like a hybrid mix and match style. Uh, and we also discussed about multi-model setting. And this is something we should look at. In industry side, this is we don't know if it is already used, but at least there are hints that it is being used in healthcare domain, where let's say you have general model and then clinical specific model, you merge them together. And then let's say you have a model for specific specialities, can also merge them and get like a much better generalizable model. In legal domains, as well as in robotics application, people are starting to merge policies. Policy means based on your observation, what action are you going to take? That's called as policy in robotics, right? And you can merge multiple policies. Let's say you have a autonomous vehicle, right? You have one policy that is very safe. It drives very safely on road. And you have another policy that's much more aggressive, right? It speeds up everywhere. You can merge them together. Maybe you end up with a model that is reasonably safe as well as reasonably rash, right? Sorry. Yep. And these are some of the do's and don'ts that I have observed in model merging, right? Always start with a strong base model, because the stronger your base model is, the better the results you'll get, and your architecture should match, right? We discussed this as well, and always try to tune your coefficients. Don't just average it. Even if you have like 5, 6 data points and you're visually seeing what is the results you are getting, and then manually modifying these weights, it's better than just putting them together with equal weights, right? And then there are also techniques for sparsification and pruning to reduce noise. We discussed ties where we just throw away small updates, right? And there are a technique. There is another technique where you randomly zero out some of your updates, right? And you do it randomly, but you end up getting a generalizable model. It doesn't overfit easily, right? And always evaluate on both in domain, like whatever domain you want to test, as well as out of domain tasks, especially when you are using model merging in your production setting. And we mentioned this thing, and this is something super useful to remember. If you are merging multiple models, uh, it doesn't always maintain safety and alignment. Let's say you train a model A that doesn't answer bad questions, right? Or is doesn't use doesn't use any rude words, right? Now you merge it with your base model, which is base model trained on a different task, and you merge them together. Your model might forget its safety alignment, and it might become rude again, right? And then or like I mentioned, don't skip validation, as well as you can't expect like a small or weaker model to merge and work better. Usually we have observed that larger model performs better. And again, I looked at the community and found out that for LLM space, for model merging to work, the model should be in this size range, right? If you go lower, it doesn't work well, and if you go higher as well, it doesn't work well because the model becomes too sensitive, right? Because it has larger number of parameters. And similarly for vision, this is the particular sweet spot I have seen people report, as well as for audio models, this is a sweet spot. And I mentioned this, like models less than, it's tiny models, it doesn't work. They lack the capability. And for larger models, merging is noisy, right? And these are some of the resources you can use to merge. MergeKit is a super popular library, open source library. You can get it in GitHub that people use for model merging. There are also uh, uh, openly available softwares you can use to, with minimal coding, you can merge models and then test them. Forge, Diffuser, Mergentic is something we use today. And these are some of the papers. Bench is a benchmark built just for model merging. You can look at them. And then we discussed about Franken MOE paper. There are also a lot of like blogs by NVIDIA as well. And these are some popular notebooks as well. You can just download the notebook and try it out yourself. Cool. I am done with the talk. So let's do questions, and yeah, cool. Yeah, if you have questions, post them in the QA. I'm looking at the I don't think, okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
Yeah, there's a lot in the QA.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'll
if
take
I
a short water break, and uh yeah, I can
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm seeing the questions as well, so I mean I can take them.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. For a small team with a limited compute, what practical workflows would you recommend to experiment with? Merging, especially domain-specific application like healthcare or medical. Yeah, the first thing I would suggest is you should always try prompt tuning, right? Start from prompt tuning. And if prompt tuning doesn't work for you, then think about fine tuning, model merging, and those areas. And it's much better if you can find, let's say you are in legal domain, right? And you can find some legal LLMs that is trained and available publicly. There are a lot of those things. You take advantage of those things, right? Or I would suggest experimenting with techniques like LoRa, right? It trains a very small number of parameters. And also you can also uh, reduce the size of your model by quantization. There are several techniques like that. So even with smaller compute, when with small number of data points, you can train your model without overfitting easily, and then think about merging, right? Um, cool. Awesome. Prabhu has a question. Yeah, so do you see this model merging applied more in domain specific applications? Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure how well this model merging is used in production, right? In companies, uh, because it's a very new technique, and people not a lot of companies even fine tune their LLMs. So model merging comes after that, but it's much easier than fine tuning as well, right? I do see this being more applied to in a specific domain, or let's say you want a specific alignment, right? Uh, you want your model to respond in a particular way, right? Not over polite, or not to use too flowery language. For things like that, you can like alignment, where you want a specific type of alignment, you can use model merging. I didn't get how you gave weights to the model. I'm assuming, Emmanuel, you are talking about the demo. So I'm loading the tokenizer here, right? And then I'm loading the models here. So this is using Hugging Face library, Transformers library, and you can just put your path here and load your models for you. Hope that answers your question. Is Franken MOE the same as adding multiple models like you talked about? Franken MOE is slightly different in that you are not really adding the weights, right? You are almost replacing you are almost constructing your model, right? A new model. You're saying this part of this first model should be added to this part of like should be put in the new model, and this part should be put nearby, right? You're not merging those two parts together. You're keeping them as it is and letting your model decide which part to use, right? So that's why I said let's say you go to a different city, and you buy bricks from there. You go to another city, another factory, you buy cement from them, and then you build your own house, rather than uh, uh, like you find two buildings, right? And then you put them together, right? So it's slightly different. So Rose's question is here. Is Franken MOE a robust system like LangChain, or does one only need API keys to actually use it? Franken MOE, I would say it's a very new technique. I don't know if there are libraries which allow you to use like how you are using LangChain. But definitely you should look at a library that you can use. I don't know if Franken MOE is a part of this library, but you can use this without too much coding with command line uh, configurations. Yeah. And can we use different base models? I would not recommend using different base models, but there are a lot of success. It's like very weird field. It's newly developing. I have seen people merging different base models as well, and they have reported success. Uh, but it's like by trial and error. We have to use different like we have to check. And looking at your other question, Nathaniel, why can't we use the same base models? I think your question is why can't we use different base models? Hello? Okay. Yeah. So mainly because if you look at this diagram, you are adding W1 and W2, right? And you're getting W1 plus 2 divided by 2, right? So you almost know that W1 and W2 mean the same thing and you are averaging it. And this is easy to do when the base model is the same. When you have different base model, let's say LLM A has just W1, W2, W3, and LLM B has W1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what do you do with 4 and 5, right? You don't know. And also if they are different base models, maybe whatever, let's say even if they have same number of parameters, whatever is learned in W2 uh, is not necessarily be present in W1 in of B. It may be in W2 because these are initialized and trained randomly, right? If they are two different base models. So for knowing which parts to add, you need to that's why you need to have the same base model. With Mike's question, with so much focus on AI safety, how can model merging be done in a way that avoids risks like bias and misuse? Yeah, that's a key uh, question we should consider, Mike. Uh, so when you merge models, it might forget what alignment it's learned because you're not really picking and choosing, okay, W1 is for safety alignment, I should preserve it. It's really hard to do that. So you need to be very careful when you want your model to also be aligned. The best method is to have a alignment data set and then check if it works correctly. Pascal's question,
Okay.
considering how
Sorry.
gosh,
Okay.
go on,
No, no,
Ifani.
no. No, go ahead. Okay. Uh, so continuing with this question that Mike asked, you know about like guardrails. So like when you have your merging two models now, the guardrails are already there. How does that? I know it's kind of the same thing question as Mike, but like, how do you make sure that guardrails integrated into model A is carried over to the merge model? Because that's a very, very,
I
how
see.
yeah, when you change another language, for that's one thing I've learned. When you have low resource, for instance, model doesn't have much understanding of a language, it's a loophole for these models. Now
Yeah,
when there's like immersion again, it's it's almost like that weakness is even there's going to be even that weakness more. So how do they um protect against this?
yeah. There's no answer that works well for all the edge cases, right? So here I would assume that something like this would work. Let's say you take model A, right, and then you do a alignment on them, and you get a model B. Now you you have this task vector stored separately, right? And then you do all your other alignments together, then finally add your task alignment and give maybe more weight to uh, that particular direction that has this alignment information. And your second part of the question is on like multilinguality. There is multilingual model merging is very nuanced area. It's like I don't people have seen success there, but it's very experimental because you are saying if you, let's say you take a math model, right, and then you're adding it with Italian model, you're almost assuming that okay, then the model knows both Italian and math, right? But what if these two are completely separate parts of the LLM's brain, right? You're just putting them together. Maybe the new model can answer Italian questions, math questions separately, but it may not answer Italian math questions, right? All those things, it's all experimental. That's why I said it's like trial and error right now. But this is a
Mhm.
super interesting field. Uh, yeah. Does that answer the question, if any?
Yeah. So good. So good.
Awesome. So Pascal's question, I think this is the last question maybe. Well, considering how fast the AI space is, how do you stay up to date on all the changes, new architecture, etc.? Do you have specific platforms or blog recommend? Asking cause I realize there's a lot of noise in the space as opposed to signal. That's true. There's like a number, even the number of publication that gets accepted in the space is so big, right? And I what I do is I listen to so things like TLDR.ai there are these newsletters that I sometimes read, and they pick and choose. They aggregate like, okay, these are top 5 papers. These are top 5 AI news that you should look into, as well as Twitter is much better. I have started realizing that Twitter has become much better than LinkedIn for following AI news, at least, right? For job search, other things, LinkedIn is much better. But for AI news, like for example, this is like I'm in healthcare AI, so I need to know these news, so it's like much better on that. I'm also starting to be more active in Twitter, because after realizing this, so yeah, follow me on Twitter. It's cool. But yeah, there are like several channels where in Twitter it's much more curated, and yeah, there are several newsletters here as well. I'm not able to find any AI news right now. But yeah, look at this one, like a lot of interesting details that people post. And it's much more user or beginner friendly than reading a research publication. Cool. I'll stop sharing. Cool. Yeah. Ifani, take it from here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this was a very,
Awesome.
very educative session. I learned, yeah, as always, I think it was really educative for everyone.
Awesome.
So thank you, Sai. Once again, reminder to everyone, please, please, please. I know most of you should be done with your projects by now. If you've not uploaded your project, please submit it as soon as possible. Like Sam mentioned, please post your project on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Tag us. Tag myself, tag Ibuka, tag Sai, because it's important so that we can repost you to our networks, and also get your teammates to tag you because it helps. I've seen this on LinkedIn that people, when they're writing a LinkedIn post, they tag their friends, and that's how it works. If I tag my friend, it gets your network and we spread more. So thank you everyone. We're having a very interesting speaker come speak to us tomorrow, same time. So you're going to get the email same time tomorrow. Yeah, so thank you everyone, and yeah, good night. Sai, take care. Thank you for today's session. Bye.